Hello and welcome back for another edition of AC Odyssey. Now we are back in the ShowFlow studio to do another one of our recordings, and today we're going to be looking at foundation myths. Now foundation myths are incredibly important to a people and a culture. It can tell them things like why are they in a particular area? What were they meant to do? What is their purpose? And so you can imagine that these are incredibly powerful stories. Now you might be wondering, I'm not sure I know of any foundation myths, but I would argue you probably do. If you've ever heard the story of Romulus and Remus and the she-wolf of Rome, then you have heard of one of Rome's really popular and important foundation myths. And in fact, if you go to the city of Rome today, you will see images of the she-wolf with the two twin boys all over the place. Now these two twin boys were the sons of Mars, also known as Ares, and so that becomes a really important foundational story for the people of Rome. Their city is founded by the descendants of Mars. Now there is another really important foundation myth for Rome, and that is the Aeneid by Virgil. And in this story we have the hero Aeneas and his father Anchises, who are leaving the burning city of Troy behind. And his mother, who is Venus, and the rest of the gods determined that Aeneas is going to go on to found an amazing city. He finds himself in Italy after leaving Troy in a several-year journey wandering around the Mediterranean, and he finally founds his city there. Now we are told later on that Augustus Caesar is actually a descendant of Aeneas, and thus also a descendant of Venus, and that gives a lot of legitimacy to the Julian-Claudian line as he establishes himself as the first emperor of Rome. So, if you need to make sure that people are going to accept your rule, you might as well say that you're a descendant of a goddess, and then also a descendant of the founder of that city. Now, as we head back to Greece, we've got to think about what is a foundation myth for Delphi. Actually, there are a couple of foundation myths for this particular city, and one of them has to do with Zeus. Now, Zeus decides he wants to find out where the center of the world is, and he lets loose two eagles. One goes west and one goes east, and they finally meet in Delphi, and he establishes Delphi as being the center of the world. Now he puts up what's called the Omphalos stone, and the Omphalos stone is essentially this representation of the navel of the earth. And so that gets put up in the city of Delphi for all the rest of the Greeks, and also, aka the whole world, to know that this is the center of the universe. That is really, really important, as most Greeks consider the city of Delphi to be a pan-Hellenic city, or a city for all Greeks. Now the next one of the stories actually has to do with how Apollo comes to Delphi and actually establishes his oracle there. Now in Greek mythology, we are told that Apollo and his twin sister Artemis are born on the island of Delos, and he is the god of music, but you might not be aware that he is also the god of prophecy. And so Apollo will spend several years traveling around ancient Greece trying to find a suitable location for his oracle. He is unable to find an area that he thinks is suitable until he gets to the area that Delphi is in. Unfortunately for Apollo, this area is already under the control of another prophetess and under the control of the ancient goddess Gaia. Now Apollo finds the Castilian spring all too irresistible and will have to defeat Gaia's protector, who is a she-dragon, also sometimes called a python, in order to be able to take over this area. Now the Pythia, the priests, and any supplicants who are coming to inquire about an oracle will have to ritually purify themselves at this site. Now you might be thinking it's a little unfair that Apollo essentially stole this area from Gaia, and you might be thinking he got away with it. However, in several versions of the story, we are actually told that Apollo either goes into exile after this event for several years, or has to go through a ritual purification in order to be able to claim Delphi as his own. Once he does, he is able to establish the incredibly important oracle of Delphi and his temple there. This becomes one of the most important pan-Hellenic sites for getting an oracle in all of Greece. Now, if you're interested in more information, there are several sources you can go to in order to get more information on Apollo and the city of Delphi. Ancient sources like Pindar, the Homeric hymns to Apollo, and Euripides all cover this topic, as well as several other playwrights from ancient Greece. Many of these stories are quite interesting and very fascinating, giving just slightly different versions of the story. I'd be interested to know which version of the story you find to be the most appealing.